Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Sencut Mims, which I was very surprised to not see a Ferrum Forge logo when I turned it over. It does look kind of like a Ferrum Forge. This is a very inexpensive knife. And it's a good design. I'll tell you guys that right at the beginning. I'm going to link this right down below. It does come in multiple configurations. So if you don't like wood and black, it comes in the plain G10 and, tumbled finish and some other configurations. But I'll link it right down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. It's very inexpensive. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to Sencut for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length is coming in at 8 inches on the dot. So a nice full-size design, 3.5-inch blade, and a 3.25-inch cutting edge. Very standard measurements there. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? This is kind of in between, more full-size than I think some people might expect. How about up against the CJRB Pyrite? There we go. How about up against the Civivi Elementum, in this case the button lock? How about up against the Demco AD 20.5? And yeah, let's do the Ritter Hogue, maybe. Ritter Hogue and the Bug Out. A few more size comparisons than you might have expected, but there you go. How's the action? It's pretty good. It's got a flipper tab, and I expected there to be double clutch, but that detent ball is still well up on the face of the blade. Honestly, the flipping action is good, the detent's good, and you can absolutely reverse flick it. I mean, why put that slot in there if you weren't going to be able to do it, right? Yeah, slot's in a good place. You can thumb it out. You can, reverse flick it out. You can even, if you're just not feeling saucy that day, you can even just wheel it out like a normal, just like a boring, John Smith. You can just John Smith it out however you want. You can power thumb it or you can John Smith it, whatever you want to do. All right, that joke's over. Let's go ahead and do some carry profile here. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, it's about the same length and height up against the PM2. And the Para 3, you can see this guy is really just a hair longer than the Spyderco Para 3. Not quite as tall as either. Definitely shorter than the PM2. So in this case, we have wood for the scales. We've got some steel liners that are not recessed, but that's fine. And then we've got a coated 9CR 18 MOV blade. These do not need to be coated. I mean, it's fine if you like black blades, but the 9CR 18 MOV is stainless, so don't worry. Unless you live in the most corrosion-prone area, in the world, and maybe, right? But you don't need to worry about rust too much on 9CR 18 MOV. But that's what we're looking at for the steel. So weight on this guy. We are looking at 3.32 ounces, which is pretty good considering that's right there between the sharpened portion of the blade and the total length of the blade, right? So the ratios on this are very, very good. 3.32 ounces of weight for 3.25 inches of cutting edge and 3.5 inches of blade. Balance on this knife is really right at the front end of where you're going to put your finger while you're holding it. So pretty darn good. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and do some, let's do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Sencut likes to use T8 for the pivot and T8 for the body screws, and that is still the case here. They still use T6 for the pocket clip, but that's okay. Really very minimal hardware, very simple construction. We've all seen this a million times. These are very, very easy to take apart, and that's great. They should be. Let's go ahead and weigh it. The weight of the Mims, which is a funny, Mims is just the Mims. The weight of the Mims is 3.35 ounces. Did we already weighed it? What am I doing? People are like, I'm pretty sure he just weighed it. Okay, let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness here. I'm losing it. 3,000 knife reviews will do that to a guy. The blade stock thickness is 116,000, so pretty thin. generally what Sencut likes to do. Meat and potatoes time. It's got some decent ergonomics. Honestly, feels really good. And the choil area is very roomy. That's really what makes me think of aside from the fact that it does look like a shark. It's the forward choil area and the, sort of complementary jimping and the overall shape of the blade and the hole in the blade really is very fair and forgy. Once again, the only thing that I'm really feeling is this ridiculous Loch Ness Monster pocket clip that they insist on. I think the Civivi, Sencut, and Wii pocket clip designs need a complete overhaul. Shorten it up and remove this flat portion of the bill and bring the bill down to about here, and you'll have a really, really good clip. As of right now, it sits at a B- because it's still a functional clip. And outside of it just being grabby, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's fine. I just don't want to change that clip. So, but you will feel it in a hard grip, choked up, not quite as much. But yeah, outside of that, the ergonomics are very good. It's about what you can expect from other Sencut Civivi. I mean, this is still relatively the same formula. They've just changed a couple of things. So you have the typical level of chamfering, right? The same level of quality that you can expect from these knives in general. If you're new to Sencut knives, just know they do a really, really good job, and they're some of the best priced knives on the market. And they're also exceptional cutting tools with good materials, right? That's what we're looking at. This knife is no different, right? It's just got a little bit more of an emphasis on ergonomics and a nice big opening hole that allows you to do those fancy schmancy reverse flicks or get the blade out while you're wearing gloves, which, that does serve a purpose in terms of utility. Every now and then I get somebody who's usually new or they just haven't ventured into this part of the knife world, and they still go by Grandpa's rules, and Grandpa says that knives are pry bars and screwdrivers, so they continue to use knives that way. If that's you, hey, it's all right. We were all new once, and a lot of us went by Grandpa's or Dad's rules when it came to pocket knives, but they are not. It turns out pocket knives are just knives, and screwdrivers are screwdrivers, and pry bars are pry bars. So, the reason I'm telling you this is because a lot of people look at the hole in the blade and say, that's a weak point, because as soon as you torque on it, it'll break. Don't torque on it. Why are you doing that? You should be using the knives to cut stuff and the other tools to do the other things. Well, in an emergency, how often are you finding yourself in that scenario, right? No. The hole serves a good purpose, which is ease of manipulation, and it does not weaken the blade in a realistic scenario because you shouldn't be prying with your knife. Even a stick on the ground is a better tool for that than your knife, right? So, no, I'm sorry. It's not a valid complaint, and it's dismissed. Get out of here. I can't be bothered with it, right? As far as how this knife will perform, while being used, for the task that it was designed for, really well. It will poke very well. It will slice very well, and you'll be comfortable while holding it, right? The cutting edge is nice and thin. The bevel is nice and even on both sides. And as you can expect, Civivi knives are just sharpened insanely well. I mean, as far as factory edges go, I know you can get it sharper, sure, right? But the factory edge on these it's just great. So flat grind, it's very near, fully flat ground. It's just a little bit of a flat there, but this will pass through most material with relative ease. Access to the lock bar, should point out, is also very good. They don't usually screw that up, and they didn't screw it up this time, so very easy to manipulate with one hand. There is a lanyard hole, yay! There's also a spot for the clip to be mounted for left-handed carry, yay! Finally, right? Actually, I think Sencut and Civivi do a pretty good job of this, generally. I mean, they didn't do it on their button lock Elementum, which is a travesty. I don't know what they were thinking there. But yeah, they did lefties. They gave you a spot here. So, rejoice. You can do that. And lanyard people, yay, you can attach, your sunken ship treasure to the back of your knife. That's great. It's not nested, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. There are 2 screws holding the clip in, and it passes in and out of the pocket just fine. I'm not a big fan of wood, but some people are, so okay, knock yourself out. They got a few different options there. Stop pin located in its traditional place with a wee bit of shouldering. Runs on bearings, I think I said that. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Organic lockup percentage is... what is this? What are we looking at? Maybe 35%. I think we can probably see the mark right there. Yeah, 35 or so %, which is fine. No, lock rock or anything like that. No lock stick, no double clutch, no pivot lash. Very smooth and consistent in here. Really nice detent on this one, and the tip is centered as far as I can tell. No detent lash either. It doesn't take much. It's not complicated. This is a $43 knife, and I think it's priced plenty well. They've got a lot of models like this, and there's a lot of competition in this zone. This knife and the design is nothing new. It's nothing extraordinary. It's nothing groundbreaking or overly spectacular, but it is a good option, whether you are brand new or you're just looking for, a beater knife and you've looked through all the stuff and you kind of want something that looks a little more ferrum forgy. $43, 9CR, 18 MOV, and your choice of a coated or non-coated blade. Wood, G10, and possibly micarta for the scales. The base price of this is $43. They might go slightly up, but honestly, the fact that we can get anything in this general tier of quality under $50 nowadays is pretty amazing. So, generally speaking, this is a recommendable knife. I'm going to put it in my cheap knives I like playlist. Not something that I feel like people should be rushing out the door to buy. It's not like the next and most insane thing in the whole world, right? It's more of the same with a couple of tweaks, but it's good. So if that's what you wanted to know, yeah, it's good. I think you'll be happy with this. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks again to Sencut for sending this in. Boy, that was like the shortest review I've ever done. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.